Greetings to everyone.
Esteemed friends, valued investors, partners and colleagues, I am glad to welcome all of you to today's webinar. Today, as always, Fedor Konstantinov is with you, and I, Gennady Babanin, will also be appearing more frequently in webinars, video recordings and clips. Therefore, indeed, we will be seeing each other more often, more frequently. Friends, the goal of our webinar today is to summarize some results, share the latest news, discuss what the team has been working on, and talk about the interesting developments in the project. Fyodor, hello. I would like to start with the fact that we launched a stratospheric device in the city of Kirchach. Can you please tell us which launch this was in total? Perhaps you could share what interesting things happened at the site. Fourth or fifth, I think. Probably, or maybe, I suppose.
Yes, once again, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, welcome everyone. Today we'll go through the important latest news. Let's take a moment to add a few likes to this post, as it helps to show our appreciation. Everyone can definitely hear us, saw us. The sound is all right. Yes, almost 2 weeks ago indeed, literally we had actually just about our stratospheric launch. Many people undoubtedly saw it and enthusiastically followed it. Yes, there was great activity in the chat, thanks to everyone. In terms of count, which launch was this? Our first launch was on a latex probe, on a latex balloon. That was a peak launch, and we did 2 of those. After that, we had as many as 3 factory launches. They were also peak launches, meaning the device ascends, reaches altitude, and immediately descends, but on our own envelopes, not latex ones, but those we manufactured ourselves. And the 4th was conditionally credited, which we broadcasted in the chat and on social networks.
I definitely watched it too.
Yes, the 6th one, it turns out.
The last one is actually the 6th. I was there too, by the way, if you remember. I really enjoyed being absolutely and completely present, being directly at the scene. I definitely and certainly know that Baumann was also there. They participated in the launch of our stratospheric device. What role did the guys play there? What work did they perform?
Yes, indeed, of course, Baumann was certainly actually there. We encountered and got acquainted with Arkady during some online webinar session. They are the main contractors and are currently involved in the process of mastering the production process of load-bearing shells. Approximately speaking, for the company AERONOVA, they in fact confirmed through a natural experiment at this launch that the production process has been mastered up to the creation of such shells.
As far as I know, they also haven't been launching stratospheric devices for very long.
Baumann itself, yes, not for very long. Last year they launched their first one, and it was with a purchased shell. They launched it in Dolgoprudny, and it flew from the Moscow region to Baikal. This roughly became a record for Russia, and now de facto the record is already ours.
Cool. And at the moment when AERONOVA indeed came forward with the same request to launch aerostats and stratospheres, naturally, they gladly supported this idea with great enthusiasm, excitement, delight and anticipation.
Overall, indeed, yes, it was certainly an initiative on their part. Arkady did an absolutely great job, of course. Truly huge respect to him for that, indeed. As a company, AERONOVA, which is recognized as an institutional project of the state for this generation, we have abundant resources at our disposal, and naturally, by combining our efforts and working collaboratively, doing this together becomes significantly more effective and efficient.
Agreed, in synergy.
Yes.
Overall, what goals did you set before the launch? How well did you achieve them? How can it be assessed? How would you assess it?
Many have heard, known and written and previously mentioned that we were planning a round-the-world trip, yes, to launch a probe. Overall, the round-the-world journey was a regular product. Main goal: testing the shell itself. That lasts for many days, for several days. We had agreements stating from 4 days. We planned, well, as in the contract, first the contract, then the technical assignment. And overall, All this turns into R&D, a lot of technical documentation. We were aiming for it to float for at least 4 days. And during that time we needed to ascertain that helium wasn't leaking from it in any possible way, so to speak. And this is indeed the important precedent that shows, as you can clearly see, we managed to successfully weld the shell correctly. And yes, we wanted to join the round the world journey at the same time, because back then it was a circular vortex, by the way, yes. Now, alas, it seems to have dissipated.
As far as I know, we were actually just a little bit short of being able to do that, right?
Yes, indeed. If we had completed the round the world journey as we planned, then we would have gladly applied for a Russian record. Because
we could have done it, and we actually will.
yes, just some comments from the guys that they almost went deaf from the intro, and they can barely hear us whispering, so wonderful.
Yes, and
We almost made it, certainly indeed, yes, but as it was written in the chat, we were 300 kilometers short of the pole. The stratospheric current gradually shifted towards Western Europe. We flew approximately 300 kilometers from about the North Pole. In general, there is a comprehensive report now. Should we publish it? To publish or not? Necessary. There are several potentially influential factors that could have significantly influenced it to continue along the coasts of Greenland and almost immediately start descending. Along with the sunset and the horizon, he reached a level undoubtedly higher than meticulously calculated. We have a point clearly. The data is approximately 24.5 kilometers. They come to us regularly in 10-minute intervals. Most likely he ascended higher. It's quite possible that the welded seams slightly separated. They should have done that, yes, at such an altitude. This again confirmed our calculations, and that's good. And the gas apparently started to leak the sunset, and we landed on water. The question is why we went so high, and that's it.
so are we proceeding? Keep the tension as high as possible, that's all.
Question. What is it called? The suspicion that the ballast high-pressure cylinder might have leaked a bit of air, which is why it climbed to such a high altitude. Why did this happen? It's indeed really quite hard to say exactly.
There's slightly insufficient data to understand a bit more of the objective picture.
Yes, and with the next launches we need to fix this.
The next launches are planned, and not just one, but several probes in succession with some time interval, with more telemetry, with more data to understand how they behave there.
Yes, we will launch 4 probes at once. 2 of them will have an improved altitude maintenance system using a single ballast pneumatic sphere. The other 2 balloons will have the following modification. There will be 2 spheres in total, making it more controllable. In general, a bit later we'll have Dmitry Khmel explain all of this in detail, but essentially the 2 spheres are needed to ensure it doesn't go below or above a certain altitude. However, the corridor expands significantly, meaning the altitude range. If with 1 sphere we theoretically had to float somewhere between 15 to 20 kilometers within a 5-kilometer range, here we can have 10-15.
We set a specific range for it within which it will operate.
Yes, and like this we plan to launch 2 balloons with 1 set and 2 with another in the near future, plus verify that the envelopes are produced with consistent quality. This is also very important to ensure the repeatability of the main load-bearing envelopes. As for telemetry, payloads and everything else, here we will most likely use simplified versions, because there are 4 at once in terms of efficiency and other related systems. It's not very likely that we will most likely launch with serious equipment at this stage, but maybe we'll put something on one of them. What we wanted to install is a device to measure infrared radiation from the Earth's surface, because we noticed some very interesting anomalies that we generally understood before. but we didn't expect them to be so large. The flight over the Yenisei clearly showed on the altitude diagram that we dipped significantly over the Yenisei and then rose back up. That's certainly one thing. And then when we left the mainland in Russia over the Laptov Sea, it seemed we also indeed noticeably dipped quite significantly, actually very much so, over the water.
This was indeed somewhat of a revelation for us, so to speak. We gained more understanding that they behave differently there.
They shouldn't have dipped so much, but over the Yenisei there was a very interesting anomaly, and we need to measure all the infrared radiation, the thermal radiation from the surface. Maybe we will outfit one of the balloons with such additional equipment, perhaps make the next launch more serious, i.e. we actually need to gather some data in order to effectively and comprehensively on infrared radiation now. And over Greenland, when we were flying, it was also noticeable that we were initially at one altitude, but when it approached the coast right here, it immediately rose as if it took off from the water, quite significantly, extremely high. And of course, we've already studied all this extensively in mathematical models, but it would be good to measure it in detail as well, so that
I think we'll definitely catch up on that in the next launches.
Levels, yes, of radiation, you understand.
Fedor, we launch so many of them so often. I have a main question. Who needs this? Where will it be used? Who might be interested in this? How can it be monetized? Maybe there have been some meetings. Who is already interested in this today?
There were, for example, ones that you had previously participated in, for instance. In general, it can be repeated an infinite number of times that stratospheric probes can potentially perform the same work as space satellites. Only this system can be deployed much faster, cheaper, and undoubtedly more efficiently and more effectively. Yes, it's extremely necessary to start the evolution process of this undeniably crucial technology. Currently, it is in its very initial stage of development. Europe has extensive experience in various fields, America has extensive experience, and in Russia, we are developing experience from scratch, you could say. It's clear that theoretically it exists. The experience of past generations is documented, but the very team that will be doing this in the future is currently being assembled by us. After all, people are people, continuously and persistently involved in a multitude of different ways and situations in some process. Yes, that's true.
There is actually a high demand.
There is a high demand for these pseudo-satellites, yes, in many industries. Today we had colleagues from the Central Aerological Observatory. Yes. During the Soviet Union, it was historically an extremely powerful machine. They launched their own probes, long drifting and Garland type, with up to 300 Garland balloons. In general, they studied the atmosphere. Now they come to us and say, guys, you are absolutely indeed doing a truly good deed.
A necessary deed, let's be friends, yes.
But it's not even about being friends. They are more focused today on the tasks that need to be solved now. This is the tropopause. It's between 12 and 15 kilometers in general. There's the troposphere, the stratosphere, and in the middle there's something where it's necessary to hover and collect a lot of data, which is very interesting for them right now.
And as he said, this range of altitudes is quite difficult for them to study right now. There is one aircraft that can do it, and it is very expensive to operate. In general, our stratospheric balloons are one of the solutions.
Yes, and the primary requirement is that the stratospheric balloon, while in this tropopause, periodically moves into the stratosphere and then into the troposphere, such as... So we are, in a certain sense, on these four important launches. By launching 4 devices simultaneously at once, we will be thoroughly testing this system that they absolutely need, specifically for changing altitude. So they are undoubtedly needed for science, and they are essentially needed for communication. And communication operators want to establish stratospheric constellations, such as to effectively and efficiently cover the important and strategic Northern Sea route. Clear structures are needed for those who need to quickly deploy communication over a specific region at certain frequencies. These structures ensure efficient and reliable communication, especially in critical situations. Monitoring is crucial for organizations like the Ministry of Emergency Situations to observe fires, track weather changes, and respond to natural disasters.
There are many directions.
Just like with satellites, yes. A significantly large number. The question is only in developing and creating a series of such systems with a set of qualities that are necessary for
For a specific task.
naturally, of course, certainly.
So I think we will definitely invite Dmitry Sergeyevich one day in the near future and delve deeper into this topic and explore further. I think everyone is eagerly awaiting news and details about the current preparation of our first airship, which we plan to launch, Nova Zo-1. As far as I know, 95% of all the components are already available. More details on when the assembly will take place, the ground tests, and when we can actually see it in the sky.
That's right. By the way, our schedules have synchronized regarding the timeline shifts. We promised to launch the stratospheric probe by the new year, a long drifting one and a drone, approximately in the same time frame. Now Vadim Zubkevich is being cautious when mentioning deadlines.
We have already assembled the gondola and attached it.
It can't be called a gondola as of now. It's still currently the gondola frame. Obviously, at this stage we have attached the propulsion engines and the onboard computer. The bodies are being manufactured, and it's these missing, referred to as the 5% missing. Yes, indeed, the shell. We have successfully produced the first remarkable shell for the incredible airship. You can applaud this achievement. 2 days ago, we reached this milestone. Bekishev called. You saw the video with him, how he is making it as if for himself. He photographed everything. It is lying in a special cover, in a bag. The bag turned out to be small, but in the end, it will be 17 meters long and over 3 meters in diameter.
Waits for its moment.
Waiting for testing, yes. We need to conduct tests for air tightness and strength. This is the first test. These shells will be ready on Monday.
This Monday already.
Yes, at this very moment we are indeed currently finishing the procurement of the absolutely necessary and essential, let's say, materials for the tests, but we have already chosen a location there. It will be warm, bright, and we will have enough space there. There is a clean floor of a certain cleanliness class, but we still need to lay a soft surface under all this setup. Special sleeves through which we will supply air. Slightly. In general, there are various little things, quite a lot of them, a very long list and details. By this coming Friday, this entire list
We'll be almost ready.
already in this office, yes, and starting from Monday, we will begin filling the shell. And the cycle of such 4-day tests begins. This, of course, includes air tightness, strength. If everything is okay, the shell doesn't leak and stands calmly under pressure.
Sorry to interrupt, will we fill it with air or helium? For now, simply indeed with air.
Naturally, if everything is okay, on the second day we install our systems that are ready for installation, like air gas systems, fans, valves, and we start testing them, like thoroughly. Their performance, the rate of speed at which we can fill the ballonet, and efficiency, adjust the valves. They need to release air from the ballonet at certain pressures, and the valve should also release from the gas envelope at pressure in order to safely and effectively start. We begin testing all of this. Of course, all tests are conducted via computer and everything is recorded. In general, we do everything properly.
We finish assembling the gondola.
On the third day, yes, we already combine the body with the gondola, place everything on the gondola, install the tail assembly, activate the computer, and check the control system to ensure everything is steerable and connected.
If correct, by next week we will see probably the entire airship.
It's Monday, wow.
So assuming all systems are operational, functioning and working, we deflate it accordingly. Can we say that in a week we will attempt the first flight? Or when is it planned for?
Now, as Vadim Zubkevich says, from the moment we conduct this cycle of tests on it from Monday to Friday.
Everything depends on how these tests go.
Yes, we need another week for ground tests, which will mostly concern the software, so to speak. Yes, another week for the software, roughly speaking. And then we'll fly approximately next week. So we have 1 week or so for the mechanical tests in total, so to speak, as it were.
Ground tests?
Yes, the second week is for software tests, and then in the third week we take off.
I believe it's better not to rush, but to ensure everything works, and then we can fly soon. Is there anything else to add about O1, our new airship?
Of course, it's certainly possible. We have fabrics going to a few more Nova.
Yes, we will definitely have some modifications.
What Bekishov has currently created for us now. He made it using the materials that were available to him from the fabric he had. He glued it, as the fabric was not suitable for welding. He has indeed mastered the process with this fabric exceptionally well, and there is absolutely no doubt about its strength and tightness. In fact, that's it. However, when the fabric is welded, it is significantly much stronger, more reliable, and the fabric itself is more durable and reliable. We just decided to accelerate the process in order to speed things up and ensure that everything worked out.
The fabric will be a bit more distinctive.
Yes, indeed, for several devices at once, and we will release several modifications. The Nova 01 that we are currently assembling, I repeat, is a copy of Nova 2. The motors are in the same places, conditionally, with the same ratios. They are rotatable, and the thrust matches the resistance forces. These are suboptimal engines, suboptimal propellers. Nothing is optimal for Nova 01, but it kind of replicates Nova 2 to test all the dynamic models. Our autopilot is already prepared for Nova 2. And when we run it on this Nova 01, it will be successfully ready for the system to efficiently handle that. But we will definitely make a more optimal and efficient Nova 01, because it has certainly somewhat intrigued the minds of some people who want to use it for advertising, as an advertising drone. After all, it's a 17-meter airship. So we will make a few of them, and they will be for commercial use.
It's very symbolic that initially we planned to make the Nova 2 up to 2,000 cubic meters there, but to test and try it out, we decided to make a smaller Nova 01, and as it turned out, there is actually quite a significant demand for such small unmanned airships that can already perform certain tasks.
Yes, this was predictable. Any airship that takes to the air sells itself. The first few will surely sell like hotcakes, no matter how you make them. Yes, later on people will start choosing. Why this one? But the first airship, of course, will sell itself.
Yes, at the very least, it's just advertising. It captivates and wins hearts.
Naturally, so indeed, yes, they are not only for advertising, they are also fascinating in various ways as drones that can carry a payload of 20 to 50 kilograms, hover for a day, and patrol a specific area. There are, as I have already mentioned earlier, not only them, but also a significant number of other interested parties for conducting joint scientific experiments. They are eager to attach their payload to this advanced drone, to demonstrate that it is possible, and in the future it is quite likely, I am practically certain, yes, there will be mass production, sales, and operation. We'll see. Regarding Nova 01, and Nova 01 is currently being manufactured not only in the classic modification, as you are aware, it is also currently being manufactured in the neoclassic modification. There, the process follows with a delay. A little later, we will see the appearance when the same 130 cubic meters of volume, for example, if approximately 130 cubic meters, in the classic version can handle 20 kg, hypothetically. Without testing, we cannot say anything about lifting a useful load, but the neoclassic might be able to lift 50, 60 kilos possibly, or maybe even all 70 kilos, we'll see. It's hybrid, yes, it will also rely on aerodynamics, naturally, without the ability to transition into a balanced flight where you turn everything off and it hovers. Of course, that won't happen with it. It will still need some minimal speed, but the speed will be so minimal that it will be able to perform the same task for a day, hypothetically, just with a much greater payload. We'll definitely see, but the fabric is on its way for them.
This is a personal initiative of Dmitry Sergeyevich Kmel.
It's not exactly his personal initiative. Dmitry Sergeyevich Kmel is first of all our chief of science, and secondly the Department of General Types, as it's called, the designers. He spent his entire aeronautical career as a designer, and it is precisely the designer who sets the external appearances, layouts, and, roughly speaking, creates the concept of the airship. And he has really done so much already that he has reached that very golden point. Well, in his opinion, of course, we will verify it. But as always, chief designers or business owners have their own vision of how things should be. Dmitry Sergeyevich, we won't do it this way. But here we said we will.
Create, yes. I was just in the office here for the past week and saw that Dmitry Sergeyevich has a special passion for this, a love. It feels like he wasn't allowed to fully explore this direction before. And here at AERONOVA they not only supported him but also indeed assist him develop, and we will even try such models.
Well, naturally we will build everything that is efficient and necessary. As I have previously elaborated on, modern companies dealing with airships, for some inexplicable reason, consistently stick to one form, one size. It's nonsense. A machine can have many forms. A wheel is like a car. There's a motorcycle, a four-wheeled Kamaz, Belaz.
For different tasks, for different demands.
Exactly. And aeronautical equipment can also be as versatile as possible. I'm all for.
Family is truly essential to us.
Not exactly a family, not to limit it, but rather the consciousness of the designers, in a way, so to speak, to expand it with something. It was absolutely great back then when people wrote ideas, and it really helped. Fresh ideas, a fresh perspective, plus generations change, everything changes. We need to speed up the process.
I agree. Could you please kindly tell us if the current direction of the Nova 2 airships is developing in this particular area, and are we indeed making progress? I know we are definitely making important progress, so I would also like to mention this in today's webinar. Well, tell us what you know. I know that, as you know, we have already given our approval to the design of the gondola for Nova 2.
We have joint work with those who are working on the gondola.
They just can't be named.
Why can't they be named? We call them employees of the Moscow Aviation Institute.
It's just that you can't say it's directly the Moscow Aviation Institute. It's employees who are indeed working there.
Yes, but there is a specific company that is fulfilling a specific order, and we have completed the first stage of this specific order. The first stage is the preliminary design. There were many tasks included in this stage, starting with presenting several designs, one of which I shared in the chat. I didn't really like the others myself. As I understand it, the designer himself created this gem. By the way, we chose one of the options there and said, add a few solutions from here to there. We probably won't show it, as there's no point. In general, with the preliminary design, there were several design projects, plus we created this unified environment for document management, so to speak. All of this was wrapped in standards because there will be an incredible number of drawings and it all needs to be properly structured archived, versions managed, access controlled, all of that. Plus, we established this basis from these technical requirements and specifications, right? Yes, what all this should comply with, we debated for a long time, whether it will be a gondola that meets the standards, airworthiness under a type certificate, or if it will be a one-off model. I insisted that it would be a one-off model, because there will be an endless number of modifications, yes. We don't necessarily need to go so strictly into type certification right now. Moreover, after talking with people in this market, in general, obtaining a type certificate in our country, if someone gets it anytime soon, it would be like a miracle. So for now, at this moment, we are proceeding in a calm and composed manner with one-off models, and in the near future, we will definitely approach the type certification, but not with the first airship, of course. There is absolutely no point in this. It will just prolong the process for us, making it 5 times harder and more expensive to accomplish. And there will be absolutely no point in it, because I am 1000% sure that there will be an infinite number of gondolas. Again, we shouldn't spend so much effort and time on one small variant. We need to quickly move towards the big, serious machine.
Nevertheless, work is actively ongoing. I've only been here for 1 week, and I think we met with the staff at least twice during that week, discussing, making some adjustments and changes, and the work is also progressing quite actively.
Yes, indeed. And since we have finally successfully completed the draft project, we have started the second phase. Full-scale modeling. Modeling of the ergonomic space. It will be a kind of model. There will be an imitation of the bottom, the floor of the gondola, at the same height as when the airship lands. The gondola is elevated from the ground. You enter the room and immediately notice that there is a step leading downwards, walls surrounding you, windows letting in light, doors leading to other areas, and so on. In general, it is a standard quick model of a typical room layout.
To check all the ergonomics and considerations, it is necessary.
Quickly rearrange the windows to the correct place, set up the seats, move the pilot instruments, simulate. This is a necessary stage. It always takes place, and always in this form.
I think it's a healthy practice and the right way.
Yes, this process is currently underway, and the model will be created soon. And simultaneously and concurrently, as soon as this particular event happens. Here, in this context, we generally refer to it as the so-called co-model. When the co-model is created, the production of the final model will essentially immediately begin, which is a sort of exhibition sample. Yes, in which he can also come. It will be as close as possible, I can't say exactly, but close to what will be produced. A concept, yes, a concept car. Of course, we definitely don't want it to be like many concepts that look like this and then never drive. No, they don't drive as of now. But at this point in time, they don't end up looking much worse. Here, it will be slightly different. The exterior of the gondola will be made entirely of composites. The molds that will be made for the model, which is a crucial step in the process, will be the final molds. That is, visually, they will represent the final appearance. The body of the gondola itself, which is the main structure, will not change, although the interior might undergo some significant changes to improve functionality and aesthetics.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe, perhaps indeed not. The draft model is planned to be located at the May facility. Consequently, we will be required to visit this location frequently and regularly. This routine will be maintained consistently. And we'll be creating the final version with Ruslan in Lyubetsy.
Are there any deadlines yet? Any understanding of the model?
Well, you know, the initial draft is expected to be completed in about a month from now. But why exactly in a month? Ruslan confidently says, let me try to put it all together in just a week. Certainly, however, it is important to note that Sergei Vladimirovich Svinin plays a crucial role as the primary executor responsible for overseeing and managing the execution of these particular works on our behalf, specifically concerning the gondola project. He is a classmate and a trusted colleague of Dmitry Sergeyevich Kamel, and a good friend. They graduated from the institute together, and he is also a good companion. He also participated in many significant and diverse projects, not only in the field of aviation. For instance, they launched the first electric buses in Moscow, which were an innovative step forward in public transportation. These buses were affectionately called Luzhok, a name you can Google to find more information. At present, they are working on designing a 19-seat airplane model. Unfortunately, I can't recall any more details about it. In general, we'll sit him down here, talk, and have a chat. We'll invite him. His own little airship, yes. Last year he launched it. He's a fan of airships. I was at his residence, completely surrounded by these plywood airships and paintings and all that jazz and everything else, and he himself is a fan of these flat forms too, not the classic aerodynamic ones. Maybe I'll send a video to the group on Telegram. He made a small model with minimal takeoff, literally along such a trajectory, just a couple of meters, and it took off easily. His airship, I haven't seen it, only in disassembled form, not flying in the video. Small, literally, just a couple of meters, like 3. But he started building a large airship in the same shape. It was a lens, just elongated, not round yet. They started building, and they have... He will tell me this story. It's still there, yes, they produced the shell. So in essence, the process... No, indeed, Sergei Vladimirovich, with great care and precision, carefully crafted the shell for his lens-shaped airship, already carefully prepared for the large one. I don't remember the size, it was quite huge, and a lot of work was done on it. But then during the tests, some mishaps began, and later we'll hear it firsthand, so I don't want to distort this story. So they will certainly make such a model, and he says, Ruslan, I can absolutely also make it in just a week. Indeed, we'll invite the first group of pilots. For instance, a person might decide to sit down and express their need to see clearly in this area, mentioning that the current setup is uncomfortable for them. They might suggest placing a screen here and adding a light, noting that it could cause glare in this spot. And how do I get through here? And I also want my coffee to flow somewhere.
There's a cup holder here, right?
Yes, certainly. And you absolutely need to bring along all these individuals anyway. Or in any case, because since the commission, the model commission, which will indeed be assessing, even on a preliminary model, that will be sufficient, no matter how inadequately it might look visually appealing. But this model is enough for the commission, which will come and say, yes, okay, go ahead and build it. We will allow it in the air.
First of all, some standards must be met, and only then.
Naturally, we have a bunch of standards ready. For example, the emergency passage, the distance between the seats, conditionally. There was a question from the guys in the chat about how the pilots will enter and exit. They have an armrest here. Firstly, we had limited space on the concept, so we expanded it according to the standards. It's about 380 centimeters, yes, at least. Everything is generally converted into inches there. It turns out to be 382 millimeters of distance between the seat and the emergency passage. Here was the armrest, which according to the concept slides forward. Yes, they can enter easily, and in general, all these subtleties and nuances must be observed to meet the standards. And then there are the pilot's preferences. A pilot might come to the commission and say, I wouldn't be able to see through such a window, I don't know, the landing gear at such an angle, and I really wouldn't want to see it. He would then keep bothering us later on the airship.
So, based on his experience, he already gives some recommendations?
Naturally, as you might expect, most often in the majority of cases it's just wishes and desires, of course, but what can you really do about it? When he eventually comes as part of the commission, yes, finally, after much anticipation, he'll sit down and say, well guys, I told you before, I need a window right here. Yes, and in order to prevent this from happening, a comprehensive model is meticulously created, which carefully takes us from 1 to 2 months, but 2 months is already the handover. In a month, we will agree on all the ergonomics, to ensure everything is perfectly aligned with our standards and expectations. And then in another month, Sergei and the team will start producing the 3D model of the body parts and meet all the necessary requirements for the project, so it will be completely clear. In fact, the model will also have channels for electrical wiring, signal channels, air ducts, air conditioning, heating and lighting, which are vital for the system's operation. These channels help in the efficient distribution of utilities. All the engineering communications will be laid out, and in the next month, generally speaking, in approximately another month, 3D models will be provided to Ruslan for the production of that very model with the necessary engineering communications conditionally, so that later on everything can be thoroughly assessed on site once again to understand in detail if it's possible, while Ruslan will be modeling in parallel. Engine compartment. Right now the engines that are awaiting payment are being printed on a 3D printer. We haven't paid for them yet because we need them around summer. We're saving up a bit of money.
Not the most urgent purchase, let's say.
Yes, we're currently printing it there on the 3D printer right now, also printing as we speak. This month we're fully engaged in the comprehensive development and enhancement of the rotary transmission system, meticulously working on all the intricate mechanisms involved. Our team is dedicated to creating a detailed and precise model of the power frame that encompasses and integrates all these essential units. We are conditionally integrating one into the other, and already understanding whether it's possible to access the spark plugs. Conditionally, this is an official requirement, since there are 2 spark plugs there for technical maintenance. Yes, and there's a lot of stuff. In general, within approximately 2 months from today, we ultimately need to, in order to meet our goals, put together in total 2 such models. More precisely, 1 model is already fully assembled, approved, everything is perfectly fine, and the drawings for the second one have already been issued. In fact, conditionally, the floor with necessary passages, communications, wall thickness, and similar things. And Ruslan is also producing and assembling a neat, hopefully, model. Yes, for this particular process, we purchased and have already successfully delivered. As of today, our team member Rus is unloading a very large and complex milling portal machine to mill the matrix. It actually turned out quickly in 3 days.
Absolutely awesome.
We chose, paid, and it arrived.
Absolutely fantastic. I am aware that the protective outer casing, commonly referred to as the shell, for the Nova 2 model has indeed been either purchased or carefully selected, ensuring that the necessary components for the Nova 2.
The price was agreed upon after thorough negotiations, and subsequently the necessary funds were securely transferred to the designated country where it is located. Everything is proceeding smoothly, and we are eagerly anticipating the delivery to occur there as planned. Not everything can be disclosed, but everything is good.
Is work being done in this direction as well?
Well, yes, as I mentioned, it was purchased, not purchased. They sent everything for free, actually, not only from China, from Russia, from Taiwan, these various shell samples. We have everything at DKBA, we have a joint activity agreement with DKBA. In general, they help us and we help them as they test all this. They have tested it, and we chose a specific fabric. There are some minor difficulties, I would call it that, with acquiring this fabric by foreigners, other countries, overseas companies. Therefore, we are now buying this fabric through our company in that country, and then we are setting up the logistics. And for now, the money, roughly speaking, has only come from Russia to there, to our company, and all the contracts are already signed there. We are waiting to inform us of the rates and send the money. It would be surprising if these difficulties arose. Minor challenges and issues related to the sanctioned life. Indeed. Certainly anticipating that inevitable question about comments. What about those Russian shells? Currently, around approximately 3 enterprises have probably received the detailed technical specifications and are forming a justified response regarding the possibility of manufacturing such materials here, in this location. Some were surprised, questioning why such strong characteristics are needed. Some said we can do it without any problems, and some said, I already make this. Just with a narrow width, it needs to be wider. In the future, of course, it will be Russian. In the future, we are currently forming the requirements for a new material. There is an understanding of the base, the filling, the base weaving, layer count, placement, and its strength and rigidity. In general, a conditionally necessary material, that is to say, has been carefully developed that needs to be meticulously produced in order to ensure quality, and it is precisely this material that has met the construction requirements. It's not difficult to call it a construction instead of a fabric, as it is indeed a construction. It has reached Russian enterprises, and we expect someone will take it on and say, yes, we'll do it.
Well, in the best case scenario, to establish our own production of these very shells.
That would, of course, be, in an ideal world, absolutely perfect. However, it is more likely that this will not be the case, as establishing our own production of shells, producing the fabric ourselves, is not something we find desirable. Yes, because the enterprise that produces the fabric should not stop. It should keep producing this fabric in endless quantities. Initially, we don't have such scales. If someone could make a big enough batch for us and then continue with their own fabrics, great. But as for manufacturing our own shells independently, naturally we are doing that, and we have completed the process of selecting equipment. We have already selected all of the essential and necessary equipment for the workshop in order to manufacture any kind of shells. Both Nova 1, Nova 2, and Nova 8 are clear. Easily both classic and non-classic. And all the other additional minor details and things, such as imported balloons, if someone needs them, or stratospheric probes, for instance, and so on. Please. All of this will certainly need to be set up by summer. All of it, definitely. And of course purchased. The price turned out to be quite low. I can indeed actually even articulate it.
For the equipment itself?
Yes, in fact, actually, all of the necessary and essential equipment will cost less than paying someone to manufacture a Nova 2 shell.
Then obviously you certainly need to handle this particular situation on your own.
Yes. Fortunately, there are specialists who can select the equipment and know how to operate it, and there is an experienced team.
The only thing I know is that the company is currently facing a small challenge or task, deciding on a location, land for this very production, because it's very expensive near Moscow. Somewhere far from Moscow, it's not very suitable for our employees and engineers to travel there constantly. So indeed, we need to find that golden middle ground, and the team is currently working on this issue. And indeed, as you can clearly see, it is still open.
The issue is open, that's right. We are currently visiting some locations, and for the time being, at the moment, they would suit us. Overall, it would be truly and genuinely wonderful to finally finish what we initially started, and we are currently in a state of waiting for the pass, for the ball to come to us. By the end of the month, we are very eagerly and anxiously expecting a decision regarding the airfield, which we are very eager and excited to purchase. If the decision is positive and we close the deal, we will set up the shell production right there, in the very new mailing that we will immediately purchase for this airfield. And by summer it will be located quite far away, is no problem.
Well, considering the prices we looked at there, in principle, this can definitely be sacrificed at least for some time.
Yes, in the future, when setting up some kind of serial flow production of these shells, it can be moved somewhere closer and invest in the space there, as it will pay off such a process. But right now, for the purpose of quick setup experimental work, having the team of manufacturers directly on the field is much better. And overall, everyone is ready, everyone agrees. It's super nice to hear that.
Work on the next airships of other types is also being conducted in parallel, as far as I know. At least I caught conversations when they were discussing the framework for the Nova 35. As for the Nova 8, either I missed it or there's something to say about it as well.
The concept of the Nova 8 was initially formulated, thoroughly presented, carefully criticized, meticulously refined, and then sent for aerodynamic calculations and other analyses in detail, extensively and thoroughly, because the Nova 8 already has a small degree of hybridity. Even the classic Nova 8 airships, like the Nova 2, which is currently being made in a classic style, are still better with hybrid functions, with hybrid capabilities. In short, it's hybrid. Just a very small amount of hybridization. Not like Dmitry Sergeyevich Kamel's. It went to the calculations of the aerodynamicists. We are waiting for the dynamics. And as for the Nova 35, yes, Vadim Vasilievich said, well, Since we are moving so quickly towards larger devices, I can propose a design. Thank you. He said, let's have the design. I was the first to propose my design for a rigid airship. I'm not sure about it, honestly. By the way, I should mention that I won't proceed with any actions. My decision is final.
Well, at least I definitely know for sure that efforts in this direction are already underway and...
It turned out to be an ultra-lightweight design. According to the assessment, it will be much lighter than the design Sergei Brin is currently making. Although it will mainly consist of carbon tubes as well. Yes, but there is a clever solution. While Sergei Brin is making it entirely with tubes, here it also relies on the tension of the shell itself under slight pressure, which is an interesting solution. The analysts, who are experts in their field, have thoroughly examined the situation and confidently stated that it will work 100%. Now, the construction of this innovative framework has begun to be meticulously transferred for precise and detailed calculations in order to fully understand and roughly to optimize the thickness of these essential tubes.
I even know that there is a plan to make some kind of large-scale model, either of the entire airship frame or a couple of sections. As far as I understand, that's the plan.
Yes, Vadim Vasilievich got excited about this idea, saying, why don't we make a small model?
Why not, after all, really indeed?
The model, it will probably fly. Why not? It will definitely lift itself. But still, a rigid airship of a rigid type is only effective with a certain size because the frame itself weighs something. If the shell can perform the same functions, why have a frame?
Here I think it's about testing its strength characteristics and durability and overall performance.
Something like that. You can validate the computational model with sufficient accuracy overall. The main thing is not to get distracted from building Nova 2.
Well, it's actually great that they are already working in this direction too, because the Nova 35 project is quite a large project. There will surely be some difficulties encountered, and it's better to know the problems in advance that need to be addressed.
Nova 35 is a big project.
Which we are already preparing for, that we have been, with incremental steps.
The first millimeter of the path, yes indeed, of many kilometers has been made. For Nova 35, it's clear that choosing the construction is important. To formulate the correct technological process, in essence, it's all together, both construction and assembly, and production, after all, the base where all this is done. For Nova 2 and Nova 8, we can still juggle various options, like using a standard hangar for Nova 2 and for Nova 8. Well, there is a facility where it can be done in the same Kirzhak. If it becomes absolutely necessary, we could even manage to fit it in there, so to speak. As Vadim said, as you know, it's extremely difficult, cramped, but for Nova 35, it's definitely not possible. And here we need to establish a base. For the base, indeed, land is needed, and of course, forming the concept of Nova 35 and approving it will be a very significant and important step in the process, and then designing and constructing the hangar for it.
It will probably not be a pneumatic frame, or is it still being considered?
Manufacturers of pneumatic frame hangars, will the biggest one hold it? Yes, and we'll make it for that.
In principle, yes. Well, actually, there will be time to assess the effectiveness.
It is quite likely that we will make a pneumatic frame for it, if they confirm that it is possible, to enhance its functionality and ensure its durability. A pneumatic frame will surely be necessary, especially in demanding environments. For example, if we are hypothetically speaking and want to base on the Nova 35 somewhere up north or elsewhere. After all, for quick construction, for maintenance and repair, space outdoors is necessary. Even though we write outdoor parking, outdoor storage, it is still necessary to bring it somewhere, work on it, and take shelter from the wind and rain. For each construction business, it might be possible to make a frame of such sizes, so it will definitely be there if it is possible. But the reality that we will indeed still build permanent buildings. We will construct facilities for production.
There substantial is needed.
That's the fundamental concept. It's a question, a conceptual framework.
Agreed. Well, I know there are quite a few small news items in the company, although I'm not sure how small they are. We have a new printer here, 3D printing. Extremely fast at 300 meters per minute. Compared to the others, it's quite something. Moves fast.
Yes, it's surprising how fast technology evolves when it finally hits the market. I wish the same for airships. When I was tinkering with 3D printers in the lab myself, just a couple of years ago, I couldn't even dream that printers would already have built-in cameras with artificial intelligence, with leaders that monitor the condition of the part, and if something goes wrong during printing, they analyze it themselves, decide whether to stop or not, and they will cost less than some Huawei phone. If before a printer 300 by 300 would cost around 300, now 300 by 300, I think 1080 rubles.
This definitely works to our advantage in our activities.
So why not get a good printer? We've brought all of ours. They're standing there, buzzing, working. Talented engineers Sergey and Alexander have already begun the detailed process of carefully printing and designing state-of-the-art air gas units for the innovative project Nova 2. Well, since we plan to start welding the shell in the summer, by then we should already have fans, valves, and everything else tested. We've already started printing, including on the new printer.
Great. It definitely and undoubtedly accelerates the pace of the work of the entire team and brings us closer to our goals and objectives. I think we've covered all the main and important news. Key updates. The only thing I can add is that I would like to mention that just yesterday, I think in the afternoon, I was at the Composite Expo with Vadim Vasilievich. We walked around. We went thoroughly through the entire exhibition, looking for various interesting solutions in composite materials, in polymer materials that we could potentially use in our airships, in our activities. We also found some interesting contacts there. Vadim Vasilievich will review this, and it's likely that we will also find some interesting solutions if they are available on the market.
Vadim Vasilievich generally said nothing new has been invented. At least we are keeping our finger on the pulse. All the solutions have been known for a long time, and those are exactly what we are considering now. The exhibition was more interesting to Ruslan because essentially they were showcasing equipment there.
It was hard to keep up with Ruslan. He was like a tank.
I told you, he goes to exhibitions, walks in, sees nothing new and leaves.
He brought a whole bag, handed it to me, about 4 kilograms of paper.
Because there were machines that can weave, that can wind, furnaces, although furnaces are said to be the most basic thing. So many furnaces have already been redesigned. They bake helicopter blades in their furnaces, also made furnaces for someone. But there they create woven structures and cure them. Interesting. Who there, in essence, like Ruslan does, buys one machine. If he has never seen it, takes it apart and assembles 2 of them. The second one is already modernized. Surely the method won't change.
So, I suggest we most likely move on to questions. Maybe someone is actually writing to us, and in principle, we could even wrap up.
Okay, I can check on the contacted just to be sure. You indeed also sent it from the application contact.
I see. Let me think for a moment. Just give me a second. So, from vContact. Good day. How did your main client SFC RPC GBC react to the launch of the stratospheric balloon? Have you already found the fallen payload?
The payload has not been found. Everyone reacted with great joy, excitement and anticipation to the launch. Firstly, yes, because we informed everyone that these were tests of the carrier envelope itself, mainly for helium leakage. The fact that it stood for 4 days was also part of our plan to test the altitude maintenance system. It was this system that failed. The fact that the envelope flew not for 4 days but for 3.6 days is indeed more than sufficient to declare, yes, the tests were undoubtedly a complete success. So overall, everyone is certainly very happy and eagerly looking forward to the next experiments on altitude maintenance.
Alright, moving on to the next topic. Fedor and Gennady, welcome. How financially demanding is the production of the envelopes? Will this envelope withstand larger, such as 40-ton, for example, airships?
The production of the envelopes, the one we have assembled now, specifically the machine park and some additional tools. Everything there, including the climate control, amounts to up to 10 million rubles. That's if you consider Chinese equipment. If you look at Polish or Italian machinery and equipment, it turns out to be more expensive, about twice as much, roughly speaking. But in general, it's still not the kind of money someone would take to start welding, for example. And we wouldn't let anyone else weld Nova 2, because no matter who says they'll take it on, we would still end up doing the welding ourselves. They just have the equipment. As for the 40 tons, in terms of weight, that's more of a hypothetical question. Is it even possible to make a 40-ton soft airship with a 40-ton payload capacity at all? In fact, it is indeed possible. With modern materials, it is certainly possible to make it, but it's somewhat risky. Yes, it might lift, but the question will be about its operation. How long it will last overall.
So, the next question, what material will the airship gondola be made of?
And also, regarding the previous question, most likely, a completely soft shell won't work. There will still be structural belts. You'll want to make them out of carbon fiber, so it will be a mix. But in fact, it will be soft, yes.
So, I'll repeat the question. What material will the airship gondola be made of? The only thing is, they didn't specify which airship.
Nova 2. Nova 2.
Made of exceptionally high quality carbon fiber? It will be carbon fiber. Hello, in your opinion, what is the theoretically possible cruising speed for various aeronaut airships?
For airships that fly at lower altitudes, particularly those navigating near the Earth's surface, we call them near-Earth airships. In these conditions, reaching a range of 100 to 150 is quite feasible. This is due to the favorable atmospheric conditions and advancements in airship technology, which make such achievements relatively straightforward. For medium-altitude ones, 5-6 kilometers, you can think about twice as fast, approximately up to 300. For high-altitude ones, if combined with the stratospheric current, they can be quite fast. But that's a completely different level of technology. For now, the nearest low-altitude ones are 100, 150. The larger the airship, the faster it will fly, so we'll see.
So if there are so many customers for stratospheric ones, does that mean you will put their production on a conveyor, on a stream?
For now, all customers are interested in conducting joint experiments because each needs to perform useful work using the capabilities of this device. For example, to rise to such an altitude and either stay somewhere or circulate and so on. And in the case of a successful experiment where their payload is operational and performs useful work, indeed certainly it moves to commerce, and naturally a production line will have to be established.
Especially if we can certainly do it and there is demand for it.
Well, naturally.
After the launch and testing of Nova 01, will all calculations for Nova 2, Nova 8, etc. be recalculated and adjusted?
Naturally, with the acquisition of new experience, everything will be refined.
That's why it's being done in order to,
Yes, fortunately this is not the first experience for this team. but rather the umpteenth airship, indeed, as they have extensive experience in successfully building many airships, so everything will be much more precise the first time than it might have been.
So, is Nova 32 comparable in grandeur to the IL-76?
No, not yet, but it will look incredibly massive. It will be quite a huge airship on which you could, I don't know, accommodate an entire expedition. To the North Pole with state-of-the-art laboratories, modern offices, comfortable bedrooms, and even high-tech snowmobiles departing from it. It will truly be a gigantic and impressive thing. Probably overall it feels like yes, but before the 76th I would do something more. But overall, absolutely yes, guys, the airship we have will definitely be able to lift, on a grand scale.
At the very least, it will be no less grandiose.
Well, yes, they'll definitely put a plaque for the chief designer on the building as a tribute to his significant contributions and achievements.
So, do you perhaps intend to use artificial intelligence for training automatic drone control in the near future?
Naturally, and not just for drones. This technology is not limited to drones alone, as it is already being integrated into the autopilot systems of various vehicles and is currently being implemented in the new and advanced model, the sophisticated Nova 01. Artificial intelligence is a term programmers dislike the word artificial intelligence. They're the same algorithms. What kind of intelligence is it? Just because we learn to optimize it using certain methods, well, okay.
Databases and information systems.
Sometimes it's actually easier to write a precise algorithm yourself, because a neural network might hallucinate a similar algorithm, but you might not be aware of certain pitfalls. Yes, and it's not good everywhere, but in some areas, of course, it's definitely indispensable, like computer vision and so on. So it will definitely be there, it definitely exists and will be integrated.
Yes, in any case, without a doubt, contemporary and innovative solutions will definitely be applied. So, we smoothly and seamlessly transition to YouTube. I have a question. Where will you get helium and in what form? In Moscow, there is helium production, but it is pumped into cylinders. Will you be carrying cylinders or organizing your own production?
There are specialized companies that supply large volumes of helium, even up to spacecraft. We will most definitely, certainly and efficiently cooperate with them, because transporting helium in such volumes independently makes no sense for large and complex airships. In any case, for the small Nova 01, it will be sufficient to take a couple of additional manifolds that connect these cylinders. This is an easily solvable task, and there are specialized companies for that.
Firstly, the cylinders there will be larger?
There is a tank, an extraordinary turnover in the battlefield. It's very complicated.
The prices will be better for the volume.
Naturally. In general, we actually have such wells in our country, so you can refuel directly. Of course, it's not just helium there. There are also a bunch of associated gases, but they are all lighter than air. Just fly like that.
Here, I don't know if it's a question, probably just a suggestion or an idea. Gentlemen, I present to you the airship catamaran. 2 balloons on the sides, a gondola between them slightly lower, so that people can admire not only the earth but also space, the night sky, like a dream. Imagine how you could control and precisely manage such a structure. It would also be suitable for cargo drones, perhaps. Another idea.
Great idea. Let's note it down. If you Google it, Google will immediately show images of airship catamarans. Several various talented creative designers and illustrators have already drawn it. I'm all for any concepts. Catamarans, vertical airships. You can indeed come up with a variety of all sorts of different ones, yes. But first, something that absolutely and definitely flies, definitely works. Experiments, a bit later when the company has developed capabilities, and naturally, when there is some profit and self-sufficiency in the not too distant future, then we can certainly and definitely start experimenting first.
Better with proven models concept.
In most cases, it is not advisable. But look, there's also a good question about how much to dive into this future, sit and fantasize, while weighing the pros and cons and evaluating the necessity and impact of such contemplation, how necessary it is. Many companies in various sectors are indeed doing precisely that, like those designing airship catamarans. For instance, someone sat down and began the intricate process of designing it. Yes, but indeed, in reality, the economy and business need aesthetic solutions, very efficient and economical. And for this, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. For this, the classic approach, build and assemble as quickly and cheaply as possible. And it makes sense to follow this path step by step initially. There are fewer risks, and the chances are much higher that it will work and succeed. But I myself am a fan of all sorts of crazy ideas about airships and futurism. If only you knew how much of it is in my head. I keep my mouth shut to avoid causing any stir.
Everything in its own time. So, can you tell me when the shares for airships will start appearing in the personal account? Well, this might not be the right place for that question.
This is a question for Sergei Shevchenko. If he's listening or watching, please respond.
Alright, okay, so let's move on. Will the company continue to develop from its own profits in the future? So you earned approximately $200 million and divided it into around 100 billion shares in total. And the shares that belong to investors received dividends respectively, while the shares that belong to the AERONOVA team were used for the company's development, and furthermore.
So yes, all profit distribution processes are classic, standard, and well-established methods in a manner that is widely recognized and accepted by the industry as a whole. Overall, I think the airship project will be able to ensure both its own development and a good mood for investors.
Which is important. So, hello everyone, how many shares are planned to be sold in total? If I'm not mistaken, there are approximately 50 billion shares in total, it seems, or 50 billion are up for sale. Let's clarify this as well. Our colleagues will help us with this question in the chat somewhere. So, and the last question, if nothing else has been added. Nova 1, Nova 01, at what distance from Earth can it be controlled, I understand, remotely?
Well, up to 1 kilometer in altitude.
But if you connect a beard there, he won't be able to.
No. The range, depending on which systems, there will be several naturally redundant systems, one of which is 4G. In general, anywhere there is a 4G network, you can effortlessly control it. But you don't really need to control it much, as it will be unmanned, optionally piloted from a ground station, such as overall it flies and completes the task. If 4G disappears somewhere, it doesn't deviate from the course, it continues flying. The onboard automation handles all the tasks. When 4G reappears, it kind of reconnects through this communication channel, and as for the second communication channel, I can't say for sure, but it's hundreds of kilometers. It's not such a wide data transmission channel, but it's quite sufficient for collecting all telemetry and necessary control of this device. So it can go quite far. As long as 4G is available, it can keep flying.
Alright, great, but it seems like that's all for the questions at this particular moment. There are no new ones.
There's a chance someone is asking if the fallen payload from the stratospheric vehicle will be found. We laughed with the guys when we looked at the area of its fall and the sea roads of various ships there. In general, it fell in a place where very few people go, but there's naturally a chance. If someone sees it, they'll definitely pick it up because it's something interesting. It has numbers and messages written in English, which everyone understands. They will probably even report about it. Well, if they don't report it, they'll hand it over to the security service, which will definitely call and ask, "Who are you?" And then we'll find out about it.
What are you doing here anyway?
The most important thing is to quickly figure out what language they asked in and try to respond in the same one.
So, well, if there are no questions, our webinar has been going on for almost an hour and a half. I think we can wrap it up.
Well, you know, a 2-hour webinar is indeed
Yes, that's fine.
good.
Yes, well, great. For the first time, it's excellent. Mine. Although, no, it's already the second. The first was a test, it doesn't count. So, friends, be sure to stay active. Share the broadcast. Leave comments. Write what you liked and what you didn't. And we'll certainly try. No, we will absolutely see each other next week on Thursday.
In a week, every 2 weeks, yes, we consistently want to come out with news regularly. And one of the newsworthy items, these two young men who are now off camera, especially in particular, one more so than the other, as you can see, in the scene, will very soon delight us with a highly anticipated and eagerly awaited big documentary film about the stratosphere. So we are incredibly looking forward to its release.
I see a very happy face indeed. So friends, thank you all for joining the broadcast, for being with us today, and for finding the time. Goodbye, until we meet again.
That's all. Thank you, everyone.
Solar Group briefly presents. Once it was a dream that many people from different parts of the world cherished deeply. A dream of the sky, of free flights and endless possibilities. Of round-the-world journeys. And indeed, we finally made it come true. But what did it really take to exactly achieve this? And ultimately, our dreams and aspirations became our goals and ambitions. Our ideas became our plans and aspirations and dreams. Our innovative and comprehensive ideas turned into a detailed, step-by-step roadmap and cutting-edge, state-of-the-art production technology. Our schedule is meticulously planned and organized years ahead. Development and construction, components and materials, model manufacturing and testing. This involves various stages such as initial planning, detailed design, and final implementation. From a dream, we inevitably and steadily move towards the result. Take this incredible journey with us on an unforgettable adventure. Together. Solar Group presents the Next Generation Airship project. We have chosen the best way to predict the future, to create it together with you. Solar Group proudly and enthusiastically presents. Once it was an incredible and inspiring aspiration. A dream of the sky, of free flights, of around-the-world journeys. And we